Good morning. Just getting started here, and hopefully the sound is properly being transmitted. We know we've had trouble a couple times, or at least a few weeks ago. So once I get that confirmed, we'll go ahead and get started. So this is VirtualPBX-admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, we don't currently do the live training for vConsole any longer. However, the training has been recorded, so it's still on our website. Just go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and go to vConsole support, and on that support page you'll find the training video. But as I said, this is for -admin training. So on the screen here, you see the login page, which is simply dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're on the main VirtualPBX website, you would mouse over support, then go over to the dash side and select -login to get to this page. I usually just recommend bookmarking this page. It's going to ask for your username, which is typically your email address. So if you just signed up, would be the email address you used to sign up with. If someone else created the account for you, then they would have selected the email address for you. The password, which should have been emailed to you. Again, if your account was created, you may have to check with your admin. And then the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if you're like a single person, just starting your own business, it might be your name, depending on what you selected at sign up. At the bottom here, you've got a check mark where I have remember me, so that way I don't have to keep typing in everything. And then over towards the right, we've got forgot your info in case you do forget your password, for example. Let's go ahead and get signed in. So I just logged into a test account, so it's been around for a little while. So this is our dashboard page. Now, if you just signed up, the first time you logged in, you're going to get through to the dash wizard, which basically is going to walk you through some things. So, and some of those things are up here on your name, which is your user settings and your account settings. And the main things that people change here would be like the time zone. Some people will also adjust their date and time displays. And then even on the account level, you can change the entire account time zone. Once you're done with that, or once you're done with the dash wizard, go ahead and close this here, and then you're back here on our dashboard. So over on our left, this is your main navigation through the dashboard itself. Basically, these are the major features of your account and the major subsection. Along the top, again, you can click on your name, right? So you can get to your account information. Get a little question mark icon up here, so you can chat in terms of getting to support. There's a web phone link, which is if you add the web phone device to a user, you can just click on that. It opens up a new tab, and you can log into the web phone. The Learn More gets you to the support pages on the virtualpbx.com site. And then the online store goes to our online store, where you can buy things like a physical VoIP phone or a router, that sort of thing. Next up, we got the little hamburger icon, or the 3 horizontal lines. These get you to other features of the account. These are admin features. In some cases, they are add-on features for the most part. Haven't figured out a good term for what these kinds of things are, and we'll get to these after we get to the main navigation here. All right, so we've got total users. These are all the people on your account. These people make and receive calls. They'll probably have devices so they can make and receive those calls, etc. Down below that, we've got total devices. You see here, I've got 61, and then they're broken down. So softphone is a software application, usually on a computer, but can be on a tablet, or even a cell phone. Web phone is a subtype of soft phone, right? So it's still software. It's just using, in this case, Firefox or Chrome on a desktop computer, so you can make and receive calls. Cell phone, very self-explanatory. A SIP phone is a type of VoIP phone, right? So it's a physical device that sits on your desk, connects to your internet to make and receive calls. So it's basically a hardware version of a soft phone. All right, and then landline, pretty self-explanatory. Down below that, you see in red here, I've got this unregistered devices. So that's in reference to those VoIP devices. So the soft phone, the web phone, and the SIP phone. And that's basically the system says, hey, we can't reach those 25 of these devices, meaning those devices are offline for some reason. All right, next up we got total phone numbers. In this case, on this account, we have 43, which would probably be considered a lot. Depending on your plan, you'll have anywhere from 1 to, I believe, 15 phone numbers as part of your plan. Just depends on your plan. Once you go over that allotment, it is $4.99 per month per phone number. So that's something to keep aware of. Down below, we got this breakdown here. Assigned numbers versus spare numbers. So assigned numbers means they're being used, right? I'm sending them as like a main number, or directly to a user, or to a ring group, or to an ACD queue, etc. Spare number, it's a number on your account. So if you're over your allotment, you would be charged for it. However, it's not going anywhere. You're not using that number. It's basically you're saving it for a later use, or you had been using it for like a particular promotion. For example, that promotion ended, and you don't want to keep getting a bunch of calls about it because the promotion's over. You're like, okay, we'll just put it on spare, so calls don't go anywhere. All right, then we got a further breakdown. In this case, use US DID and US toll-free. Right, so US toll-free, 800 number, 888-877, etc., all the way down to 833. US DID, that just means a US local number, right? So that can be a number in San Jose or in Amarillo or whatever locale. You can also have international phone numbers. If you do want to add an international number, you're going to want to email our porting team, so porting@virtualpbx.com. And they'll need to at least know the city and country that you want a phone number in. They'll see what's available, right? They'll tell you, oh, yes, we can get numbers for that or not. They'll also tell you if we need additional information or documentation. So some countries, like Germany, for example, they require proof of presence in that city that you're requesting a phone number in. So, for example, if you wanted a phone number in Munich, Germany, we would need, say, like a utility bill in Munich that we can then present to the carriers in Germany, and they can say, oh, okay, you're legit, you have a place here, boom, we can then get you a number. And that requirement varies from country to country. Some don't care, right? And we can say, okay, here's your number. Others, they want that kind of documentation or more in some cases. Let's see. Oh, conference bridges. That's the number of people you have decided can host a conference on your account, right? So users with conferencing. Over here to the right, we've got your main numbers. So these numbers all behave the same way, right? So they're all ringing to the same area initially. They're all going to have the same main greeting. All right, so these are basically your default company numbers that most people call, or like your new customers call. Maybe your established customers have a different way of getting to you and your staff. All right, conference numbers. These are the phone numbers you use to get to your conference bridges. Your fax box number. This is your fax number that receives faxes. All right, company directory users. You can download this list. Basically, it's going to include the people you decide to add to the company directory. You can choose not to have everyone on your directory. Your store discount code just for being a VirtualPBX customer, actually just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in the web store. And then your account realm, you use this for a couple things. You use it for outbound faxing. So on faxing on Dash, it's email to fax. So you open up a new email. In the to field, you put +1 area code and phone number, or the phone number you're faxing to, destination. Got the little @ symbol, and then you put your account realm. And then you would simply attach a PDF to that email and send it off. You would also use the account realm in programming some soft phones or third-party devices. All right, so let's go up here is to caller ID. So this is your main company caller ID. All right, so you select what are your main numbers. This is typically a pull down. And then you've got your company caller ID name. Excuse me. This is basically text that shows up on phones when you make an outbound call. So not just your phone number, but you can put like your company name here. Now, this field is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters, and that's the industry standard as far as I understand it. Once you click on Save Changes here, that gets transmitted to all the carriers who support CNAME. It takes about 3 business days for all those carriers to update their servers. And then once you make an outbound call, ideally, your company caller ID name there will show up to whoever you're calling. Now, a couple things. One, not every carrier supports CNAME. I don't know why they don't. That's their company decisions. But basically, what that means, if when you pick up your phone, you make an outbound call from your Yale phone, for example, you make an outbound call, it's possible your call routes through a carrier that doesn't support CNAME. So that means that CNAME information doesn't get through to your destination. Right? The next time you call, maybe even the next time you call that same phone number, your CNAME information may show up. It can depend on the routes that are taken. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority, right? So for all telecom, first priority is connect call. Then the caller ID, and then in distant third is the CNAME information. If carriers are having heavier than expected call volume, then they'll drop CNAME, right, to make sure, again, that they can connect the call. And obviously, if they're having some sort of maintenance issue or outage, no, that's probably not their highest concern either. And then, just because cell phones are so prevalent, if you call someone who already has your phone number programmed in their phone, whatever they have you programmed in for will take precedence over whatever we send, right? The local device supersedes something from outside. And even then for cell phones, some cell phone providers charge the individual cell phone to have CNAME information even show up. So something to keep in mind. All right, down below here, we have got your E911 address. This is, again, for your main company site, your headquarters. And then this is the default address that if someone picks up a VoIP phone and calls 911, this is the address that gets sent to emergency services. So one, you want to make sure this is a legit address. But the other thing to keep in mind is for your remote employees, you can have different E911 addresses for their phones. So that way they can have the correct address for where they're actually located. And then you would click Save Changes if you make any. All right, next up, we've got hold music. Now, this is default hold music, and how Dash handles hold music may not be what you're necessarily thinking of. And that is, for hold music on Dash, this is after a call has connected to one of your staff members, right? They've picked up your phone, Bob is talking to his customer, blah, blah, blah. Customer throws him a curveball, right? He's like, whoa, I have no idea what he's talking about. Says, let me find out for you. Then he presses hold on his phone, right? Turns around or, gets on Slack or whatever, says, hey, customer's asking me about this, particular scenario. Never heard of it. Will it work, right? So he can find the answer, back up, talk to customer. So when he presses hold, you can click upload here and upload your own file. Now, Dash will accept .mp3 and .wav file formats. You want to make sure it's under 1 megabyte in size. So like a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. We do recommend that you record in mono, not in stereo. One, that lets you get more data within that 1 megabyte in terms of longer time. But also sometimes we have found that when you listen to a music file over the phone, you only have that one speaker, and stereo file can sometimes either be very scratchy or like staticky. I had one instance where a customer uploaded a stereo file, and when he tested it, he just heard silence. So keep that in mind. But basically, you would click on Browse, you'll find the appropriate file, and then you would click this little upload icon, and then you would click on Save Changes. All right, hours. This actually comes under main numbers. So actually, let's go up to main number real quick here. So here you can unassign any of your main numbers. You can add a main from your spare list, or you can actually add a completely new number directly here. And I'll cover adding numbers under the numbers category, but I just want to show that was possible under the main number. So office hours strategy. So if you just signed up, you're on 24-hour open office, meaning the system is waiting to take calls. Right? Most people shunt it over to custom office hours, and then you go down for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, and then in these boxes to the right, you put your open hours, and this is done in 24-hour or military time. Fortunately, it's a drop down, so you don't have to think about converting. You can just try to find the right one. Just subtract 12. So in most cases here, you can see I'm open from 9 to 5. Now down here at the bottom, you got a check mark here. If your whole office or facility is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here and then include your lunch hours. So next up, we got office holidays. So if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark. And then you go over here to the right and you add a holiday. And you've got your option here for single day, date range, and advanced. And single day is like what we have here for President's Day. You give it a name. You select the month and the date, and then you would click Save Changes, right? Date range, like we have here for Christmas. Again, this is the start date, and you select the end date, click Save Changes, and then the advanced is like this one here for retreat, where I say, hey, it's a retreat, and the first Friday in July, we're closed, we're on a holiday. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there's no year indicator on this, so for date range, you don't want to have a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because the system just assumes that means you want to be closed all year, which is not really what you're saying, but because it doesn't have that year indicator, it doesn't know how to parse it quite properly. So for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we say, hey, just do those single day, and then anything else you can do date range. So now we get to incoming call handling. So this is how your main numbers are handling calls, right? You've got an open hours tab. You have a lunch hours tab, because I said we're closed for lunch. Your after hours tab, and then your holidays tab, right? Now these all have the same basic option. So first option here, call comes in from a main number, goes to your virtual receptionist. This is a link, and opens up a new window. Now here on the left, this is what people dial on their phones to navigate through your phone system. So I choose a route. You click on Add Route, select 0 through 9. So when they press 1, I am sending them to the support group tier 5, right? And this is a group because it's got three little people icon here, right? If they press 2, they're sending it to David's voicemail box, right? Little voicemail icon. If they press 4, they're sending it to Bob, right? Single person icon. 5. They're going to, this is actually supposed to be a headset, so they're going to an ACD queue. And then the default route, that means if they don't press anything, eventually the system will just send them to this voicemail box. Over here to the right, you've got your greetings and your greeting options, right? So text to speech, you type something up, you click update, you'll click save and then save changes, and it's playing. The computerized robotic voice. It's a good thing. Most people use it when they first set up just to get a feel for it, especially if they've never used a PBX system before. And then once they feel like they've got their system set the way they want, they usually come back and change the greeting from text to speech to something else. Upload your own file. Again, .wave.mp3, that's to record in mono under 1 megabyte. Basically means like, hey, you recorded on your computer, and then you uploaded it here. Or you ordered a greeting from another service and then upload it. If you already have many greetings uploaded, you can choose from the ones that are already on the system. Recorded over the phone. So by default, this is set to go to or be used with a VoIP phone that you have on the account. And what you do is you select this, you call in to your main number. If you've never recorded a greeting, it will ask you to record one. You can enter in the PIN number, and then it'll walk you through recording it. If you already have a greeting in place, and you do this, right, so when the greeting that's there, greeting A is playing, you enter in the PIN number. The system recognizes the PIN, says, oh, okay, you're going to record a new one, and walks you through recording again. Now, greeting A, right, that file name stays the same. The content of it just changed to whatever you recorded over the phone. All right, and now you got professional recording services. If you click order here, it'll take you to another website. We partner with another company called Snap Recordings, both because they have 100 voice actors to choose from, male and female. They have different versions of English, different versions of Spanish, different versions of French, which means they can also do a multilingual greeting. They also have different packages, so they can do like, music with a script, music and script, that kind of thing. They handle their own billing, and they deliver to you via email, so then you would just upload your own greeting. They also have options for like express delivery, etc. Now, if you make any changes on the main menu or the greeting or both, you click save. Oh wait, hold on. I skipped a step. My apologies. Settings. Number of retries on missed dial, meaning customers called into your account and they just keep pressing 7 in this case. Right? That's not a valid option. It'll tell them that's not a valid option. For whatever reasons, they can't hear it. Their kid is screaming in the background, whatever, and they hit 7 again. Well, then after that second mistry, the system is going to say, hey, default action, I'm sending you to the voicemail box. Right? Now, if I didn't have this default action, right, if I remove it, so after that second misdial, then the system just ends the call. Say, thank you, goodbye. Now, the reason you would not want a default route is that way you cut down the impact of robodialers on your system, right? Robodialers, they can't press a menu option. So for your actual customers, when they call in, they'll press something to get to one of your staff members. Robodialer doesn't have fingers, can't send the right tones. So it just sits there, here's your message, and then the call ends. And that's why we would say you don't want a default route. All right, so now we click save. And because we made changes, you also click Save Changes here, and now all my changes have gone into effect. All right. So this middle option here is call. In this case, we're offering it to Bob, and then it goes to the virtual receptionist. Now, this virtual receptionist is the same as this first one, because we're all under open hours. And then you've got options here if you can send it to, right? You can send it to devices, you can send it to queues, you can send it to ring groups. I think you can even have it go to a media file. Yeah, you can have it play to a media file. But the main thing is most times it's people select a group or a person. So basically what it is you're giving a staff member or members a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to answer, then it goes to your virtual receptionist for that inbound caller to make a menu option change selection and then get somebody. All right, third option here, same kind of concept in terms of you're offering it to a staff member or several staff members. Again, you can select it to a device, you can select it to a media file. But if no one answers, then call goes to voicemail. And you actually have an option here on this top one here, all the way at the very bottom. Is this one? It's just skip the voicemail. Basically, don't try anything, just send it to the voicemail box. The voicemail box greeting will play, and then they can leave a message. Now, your lunch hours menus and your after hours, et cetera, right? You have these same options, but the virtual receptionist is different for each one. So you can have a different menu for during your lunch hours, during your after hours, during your holidays. You can have obviously different greeting, etc. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, main conference numbers, you can always add more, add from spare, buy a new one. You can also unassign to remove it. Oh, one thing I should mention, when you unassign a phone number, that only puts it in your spare number list under the numbers tab, which we'll be getting to shortly. You also have an option here for a custom text-to-speech greeting. I know our engineers at some point will, or at least looking into giving the option of uploading your own file here. And then you got your main fax box number. Again, this is to receive faxes. If you click Edit Fax Box, it won't work on this account because this account is, again, a test account. But typically, on a live account, when you click on Edit Fax Box, it brings up a window with two fields. The first field is for an email address for who's receiving the faxes. Right? So basically, put an email address. That email address gets the faxes that come in as a PDF attachment. They can just open it right off their computer or their device and look at the fax. Now, the second box is if like you own your own company domain, right? So you are abccleaners.com. Everyone in your company has an @abccleaners.com. So you can put @abccleaners.com in that second field. Everyone at your company can then send a fax out via Dash without having to be a user on the account. Now, they have to have the correct format, right? That +1 area code at your account realm. And they simply attach a PDF or a TIFF file. You can only send out one attachment per email, right? And some email applications sometimes add a signature file. That counts as an attachment, so you'd want to make sure to disable that when you send a fax out. Additionally, when you send out the email, if you're putting a text in the email, that in the body of the email, that doesn't get transmitted. Right? The system is only grabbing the attachment and sending that out. All right, let's go over to numbers. So numbers, it shows all the numbers on your account and where you have them going to. All right, spare numbers, this is with numbers you're not using. You can buy numbers here. So local, for example, we can go to Vegas. Right, say okay. Oh, that would have been cool if it was 5151. But basically, you scroll down the list looking for a number you want. It will produce more. You choose one to add. You can actually choose several. You click Buy Numbers. It'll then add it and activate it. And now it's on my spare number list, which means I can move it to anywhere I want. Now, on the places you want a number, you almost always can add directly from the spot, right? So like under main numbers, how I showed before, under user, you can buy a number directly on those spots and not have to go do it through numbers and then move it. You can just go to where you want it to be. Likewise, when you have any numbers here, you're like, okay, I'm not going to use this number. You can just select it on the spare number list, and you can say, now you have the option here to delete. Says, are you sure? You click on delete numbers. Says successfully deleted the numbers from your account, and now they're no longer there. You don't have to worry about it. All right. Next up, you've got port. Right. So the port is meaning you're moving a number from AT&T, for example, to VirtualPBX. Right. You want to keep it. You already had a phone number. Your customers all know the number. You don't want to lose it. Right. Plus, it's probably like on the side of your building. Probably on all your marketing material. Like, we want to keep that number. This is what allows you to do it. You would start a new port request, and you would basically follow along on the instructions. Essentially, what we need is a filled out letter of agency and a copy of your most recent bill. And you can upload both of those through this process here. And you also have the option to download a blank LOA. So then you can fill it out and then re-upload it. If for some reason this process doesn't work for you, or like you're not sure, you can always email porting at virtualpbx.com, and you can just send us the LOA and the bill copy, and we can process it that way. You don't have to do it just this way. One thing to keep in mind about the LOA, there's a section there for company information, so like the company name and the address. That information should match what your current carrier has on file for you. So, for example, I said that, oh, you're abccleaners.com with us. Well, if with AT&T you're actually XYZ Cleaners, so on the LOA you would put in the company name XYZ Cleaners, whatever address they have on file for you, and it does need to be signed. Now, it could be a digital signature, right? But it does need to be signed. It simply cannot be typed out for the person who's signing for it. We get the LOA and the bill copy. We submit that in to get basically through the portal that we have to go through. And then we wait for this case, for example, AT&T to get back to us and say, yes, all the information matches up. We're going to release this number to you on this date. So then we let you know, hey, you're going to have the number on your Dash account on this date. Now, if there's any problem with the port request, like the address was wrong or the zip code was wrong, the person signing it was not actually authorized to, whatever reason it is, the other carrier will let us know. They'll say, hey, this port is rejected. Here's the reason. They're not going to give us a specific reason, right? They're like, so they'll say address zip code mismatch. They're not going to tell us, oh, the zip code was wrong or it was off by 2 digits. They're not going to be that specific. We will let you know what the error, that message that we got, saying, hey, it did get rejected. Here's why. At that point, you're almost always going to have to go back to your current carrier, find out what they have on file for you, and either update us, and then we can resubmit, or update your current carrier, saying, hey, no, you guys got it wrong. We've been at this other address now for 3 years. What are you doing? And then you can tell us, hey, can you resubmit? They updated the address. That sort of thing. All right, let's go to users. So users shows all the users on your account. You can add a user by clicking up here. You can put their first and last name, their email address used to log in. This has to be unique for each user. Then you create a password, and then you give them an extension number. Now, on this particular system, I started off with extension 1000. So the system is assuming that when I add people, I'm just going to go up to the next unit under next series. In the series of 1000, in this case 1026. However, I can enter in a different extension number here if I wanted to. All right, 5322. Boom. All right. By default, when you add a new user, it creates a voicemail box for that user. I do recommend keeping that in general. And that's because that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. Now, next option, include in the user directory. Yeah, that's an option here. Send emails to alternate address. So this is in addition to the login address, where do you want notifications to go? Like voicemail, for example. And then this is the one I think that all should be checked, but I don't know why the engineers never do or ever made it default check mark, but send credentials to the user so they know how to log in. Now, if you're only adding one person, click on create user. If you're going to add a bunch more, create user and add another. Pretty simple. Now you notice here, some people have a little gray icon and other people have a little blue suit. People with a little blue suit, they're your system admins, so they can make all these changes we've been talking about. The blue suit people, they can't make any changes other than they can enable their call forwarding. And in fact, they can't even get to this dashboard. They can get to the user portal. And if you have queues, they can go to queues. And that's basically it. All right, so you click on the person's name, boom. You can change their name. You can change their credentials, right? So you can change their email address. You can change their password. Also, if you have a user who forgot their password, you can click right down here, and you can just send the password reset email. Versus going back and forth on, okay, what you want your password to be? Wait, is that character capitalized or not? So, voicemail box PIN. Now, if your users are using VoIP phones, you don't need to create a PIN number for them because from a VoIP phone, they can pick up the handset, hit *98. That automatically logs them into their voicemail box. And the first time they do that, it's going to prompt them to to enter in a PIN number, and then it'll go that walk them through recording their voicemail box greeting. If your users are checking voicemail via cell phone or landlines, they need to have that PIN set up ahead of time. So, like you just got set up, and your first users, they're only going to be using cell phones, then you need to set up the PIN number for their voicemail box for them. Right, send emails to an alternate address. Again, you can add an address to send emails. Include in the user directory. You can also remove them if you want to. This is a drop-down over here, which unfortunately is not showing on this software. Basically, this allows you to change a user to an admin or an admin back to a user. Please, if you're just signed up, right, you're the only user, please do not change yourself from an admin to a user. You want to at least have one admin on your account. This is your default time zones. So you can then select it here. So like this is for like, Bob, in this case, he's on the East Coast, but the company's based on the West Coast. You can change his time zone to match where he's at. Language selection, French, English, and Russian, and I think they added German recently. Ringing timeout, the default for ringing timeout is actually 20 seconds. In this case on Bob, we've upped it to 45. 20 seconds is typically plenty of time to send a call to a landline or even a hardwired VoIP phone. Anything that's on mobile, right, so using mobile data networks or just a cell phone number, you'd probably want to up it to 45 seconds. It simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone because each time you get a call on your cell phone carrier has to find you. All right. You got your main extension number, right? So you can't have multiple extensions, etc. In fact, if you click on the extensions box, you can add another extension or unassign the current extension. You can have users have their own phone numbers, right? Bob doesn't have one, but I can either add from my spare number list or I can buy a new number here. You can see Denard and David here have their own phone numbers. And then you've got devices. So you can add from spares. This means they've already been on the account. You're just moving them around. Or if you can add a new device. So we'll start with SIP phone here. So this is the physical VoIP phone that sits on the desk. You look for your manufacturer. If it's up here, then that's a good thing. And you would click on them and find your specific model. Now, if you're like one digit off on the model, you might still be able to try it. But basically, you select the model, and then it's going to ask you for the MAC address, and then to give a name for the device, right? So Bob's phone. Now, the MAC address is usually a sticker on the back of the phone. It's usually also on the box that the phone came at or was in. And that's a unique identifier for that phone. So once you add the phone and click Save Changes, then at least in terms of the dashboard here, you're done. On the phone, you need to log into the phone's web UI and add in a URL, and this is all on the support pages of VirtualPBX. And that basically what it does is it tells the phone, okay, go to this URL. The phone goes there, the URL says, the server there says, hey, give me your MAC address. It says, okay, right? Server says, oh, I know who you are, or at least I know what kind of phone you are, I know what account you're associated with. Here's your configuration file. Send it down. Your phone reboots. Actually, normally reboots, I think, 2 times. After it's done rebooting, it should then be connected, right? It would show up as green on here. You can make and receive calls from that phone. There's nothing else you have to do. So then, cell phone. All right, give it a name. You put +1, area code and phone number, and then you click Create Device. Then you click Save Changes. Now you've got these advanced options. So this is the default after you add a cell phone or a landline. So what happens is when Dash sends a call to either a cell phone or landline, right? So that device rings, you pick up. You're going to hear a message say, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. By pressing 1, you're telling the system, yes, I'm here, I'm ready to take this call. It hears that tone come through, it connects the inbound caller to you, you guys start talking. Now, that's great if you're actually using a cell phone. However, we have many customers who are actually sending calls to an automated answering service, whether it's an after-hours answering service or even just during their normal day. That automated answering service can't press 1, right? It's sort of like a robot now, can't make tones. So what you would want to do is put a check mark here in front of allow cell phones or landline voicemail. What that does is when we hear that pickup tone, the system just connects the call. It's not waiting for anything to press 1. In fact, you don't get that message, right? So call comes in, gets sent to this user who's actually your answering service. Answering service picks up, call's connected. Don't have to worry about it. Right. Keep original caller ID. Now this is an instance where you are using your cell phone to receive calls. And with it checked like this, you're just going to see that inbound person's phone number. Right, so you have no idea what it's about. If you uncheck this, then what happens instead is the phone number that shows up on your cell phone is the VirtualPBX phone number they call. Right, so they call your main number that shows up on your cell phone. If they call, like if you have a number associated with your user, that's the number that shows up on your cell phone. So that way you know, oh, this is a work call. It's not some random telemarketer or whatever. Right? Yeah. Okay, I can pick this up and handle the call. Soft phone. So there's a little warning message here. Basically, it's to make sure your E911 is accurate. So by default, this is now set up as, if you can see here, grayed out, it's use third-party application. So meaning you're using something like XLite from Counterpath, or like your phone didn't show up on that SIP phone list, like you didn't see your manufacturer, or you did, but you didn't see your specific model and there was nothing close to it. Then you would use this to program that device, right? You'd give it a name, and you'd use the SIP username and the SIP password and your realm to program either that application or that device. Then you would click Create Device and save changes. Now, for soft phones, if you wanted to use a VirtualPBX application, you would click here, right? So it says Use Third-Party Application. I click there. It flips it, says Use VirtualPBX Application. You give it a device name. You click Create Device. You click Save Changes. When you click Save Changes, the system's going to send this user an email with their username and login for the soft phone application. And if they're using Android or iPhones, they can just download the app from the app stores, enter in that information, and they're making use of the app. We do have the app available for Windows and Mac OS. However, that does require a license fee, and you can access that through the web store. Oh, and then I'm going to skip down to web phone here. So as I said, web phone is a particular type of soft phone. You would just give it a name and then click Create Device, click Save Changes. And that's so you want to do this web phone especially on the user's page, because that associates it with the correct person. The web phone login is the same login as your Dash login, right? So the same email address, same password, same account realm. So that's why you want to associate it with the user, so it knows which user it's really for. All right, let's go to features. All right, caller ID number. This only applies to your users that have their own phone number. Basically, when you turn it on, you're saying, hey, use my personal phone number as my outbound caller ID. Call forward. Basically, this says you've got a couple options. So off means you're not using it. On means, hey, I know I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Instead, send calls to this other device. Failover mode is great for your VoIP phone users, because basically it says, right, since the system knows when a VoIP device is no longer registered, it will see that, and if a call comes to your user, it will automatically send it to your forwarding device. The main thing is your forwarding device should not be a device on the user, right? Because it's not something you use every day. It's the backup. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. If you enable it, you create a hot desk ID. This is in an instance where you're in a shared office environment where you might be sitting at a different desk every day. Right, so today's Tuesday, I come in, I sit at desk 7, I get situated, I pick up the handset at the phone there at desk 7, I hit *11, that enables hot desking, asks me for the hot desk ID, I enter that, and this says, hey, calls will be now sent to this phone or this device. And so I go about my day. Calls to my user go to the phone I'm sitting at. At the end of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking, I go home. Tomorrow, I roll in, someone's already at desk 7 because someone else loves that seat more than I do, whatever. I'm like, all right, desk 23, you're up. I sit down, hit *11, hit my hot desk ID, again, phone calls to my user, come to that desk that I'm sitting in. Voicemail box, again, created by the user. You can have fax mailboxes for each user if you so desire. So you have an option here of selecting a spare number, buying a number, or using an extension. I usually recommend using a phone number. That way people just dial the phone number, send the fax. They don't do anything. If you select an extension, then you have to choose an extension number, but then what that does for the person faxing in, that's dial your main number, listen to the greeting, or at least when they hear the greeting, enter the extension number they're faxing to, and then hit send fax. And I don't know how well that works with email fax services. So for most people, it's just easier. Use a phone number because the inbound faxes, most people, when they fax out, they just hit a phone number, hit send, and walk away. Conference bridge. Again, if you enable it, these are your phone numbers. Here's your PIN, or you create the PINs for the user. And then this allows this particular user to host conferences. Follow Me is an instance where you have multiple devices, and you can adjust the ring duration. So you got your total ring duration is set right here. In this case, 120 seconds. I can click Distribute, so it rings each device in order. But these are sliders, so I can adjust them how I see fit. So like I could do here like this, so that they all ring in the same amount of time. I can also click and drag these devices, click Distribute again to change the order, right? And just so you know, the first time you open up or enable Follow Me settings, all the devices start off like this, right? Do not ring, because it doesn't know which ones you wanted to use. So then you just enable them. In this case, it remembered settings, but you can adjust how you want them to ring. Music on hold. You can have users have their own music on hold files, so not the default one. Again, upload the file, .wav, .mp3, recorded mono under 1 megabyte. Customize call recording. So you can have call recording on the account. Let's set this back to default for a minute. Oops. I'm not sure what happened there. All right, looks like I have to close and reopen this window. Sorry about that. That was unexpected. go. All right, so back on customize call recording, you click enabled. And if you click enabled and then save changes, you actually haven't done anything to actually make call recording happen. You actually have to adjust these internal settings here. So inbound internal means my coworker Bob called me. Right. Inbound external means a customer called me. Whereas outbound internal means I called my coworker Bob. Outbound external means I called a customer. So you want to, whichever ones you want to make use of, which typically I'm assuming it's more customer focused, but whichever call recordings you want to have, you make sure they're clicked on, and then you click save changes. All right, so groups, these are essentially departments, right? So a group of people who answer questions about similar kind of topics, like your billing team versus your sales team versus your support team, right? You click on add a group, you give it a name, give an extension number, and then you just click and drag the people you want in the group, and then you would click on create group. Once a group is created, again, you can always change the name. And then you've got the dialing repeats. You've got little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease that. And that's just the number of times an inbound caller tries to reach those people in the group. And obviously, it's have a chance to delete the group. If you click on the members box, you can adjust the members. Again, if you recall, this looks fairly similar to the follow me settings, right? So you can click and drag people around. You can redistribute. You've got sliders, right? So you can adjust it. The main thing you would want to avoid is having a gap, right? So if I do something like that, right? You don't want a gap between people. Your default ring time is up here again in the top right. This one is, so the default for a group is 120. At some point, this one was changed to 240. But then you would click on save changes. Extensions for the group, basically this is so your other staff members can send callers to that group. You can also have a specific phone number for that group, so go straight to them. And then we've got group features. All right, so ringback, this is essentially hold music for the group. Basically, this is what plays until one of your staff members picks up. Then you upload, you would just take, again, .wave.mp3 recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. You would want to make sure for the ringback that it is as long as your ring time, right? So we go back to members, right? This is 240 seconds, so I would want to make sure my ringback is at least 240 seconds long because the system doesn't automatically loop. All right, next action, basically, your staff members weren't able to take the call. What do you want the system to do with call? In this case, I'm sending it to Bob's voicemail box. But again, you can send it to other people. You can send it to other groups. And you can also send it back to your main menu, right, your virtual receptionist. Allow call forward basically says, hey, allows your staff members who are going to be away from their typical phones to answer calls on their forwarded devices. And then caller ID prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. If you click enable, you can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their phones, so that way they know something about what the call's about. I.e., this is really helpful for your staff members who are in multiple groups or multiple queues, because again, they can know, oh, it's about this particular topic ahead of time. So yeah, as far as I know, there's no limit to the number of groups you can have, and there's no charge for groups. Whereas queues, there is a per queue charge. So you know. Devices shows all the devices on the account. You can add devices here, and the only caveats I would say is you don't want to add VirtualPBX soft phone on this page or the web phone, right? You want to do those two specifically on under users. The voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. Again, user voicemail boxes they're directly tied with the user. You can create your own, right? Give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then you would say create new voicemail box. And then once you've done that, if you click on the icon, you want to go to advanced. You want to get a greeting media in play. Either you're uploading it or you're recording it over the phone. Then you want to make sure you've got recipients set up, right? So whoever's, that way someone knows voicemails are getting it. And then you can look at your options. So once you have a greeting and your recipients, then you can click on already set up. And I typically recommend delete after notification. So voicemail boxes are restricted to 100 messages. Once you get to that point, anyone who tries to leave a voicemail gets a message saying the voicemail box is full. Please try again later. So if you enable delete after notification, the system automatically emails the recipients the voicemail. Once that email goes out and you have delete after notification enabled, then the voicemail is deleted off the voicemail box. So you don't have to worry about ever being full. And then you would click on Save Changes. Greetings, or your greetings manager, shows your greetings that you've uploaded either to your main greetings or your voicemail boxes. There's your name, the type, or the source, I guess. You can download it so you can listen to them in case you forgot what they were, which for a lot of us is probably pretty common. You can have the edit icon here so you can change the name so it's something you recognize more easily, or you've listened to it, you're like, oh, I don't need this anymore. And you can delete it, and that way it won't show up on the pull-down list for any pull-downs for recordings. The call logs, this basically shows your activity on the account. The green arrow to the right means the call came into the system. Yellow arrow to the left means outbound call. You can click on these to get a little bit further detail. Again, since this is a test account, this isn't the greatest examples. Because normally you can say, oh, it went to a particular VoIP device, or in this case you can say, hey, it went to this cell phone. You can see, oh, no answer, and then the person called in and canceled. Feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these, but basically these are dial pad shortcuts from your VoIP phones. Let you navigate through the system somewhat. These are also available on the virtualpbx.com website under support, cache support, so you don't always have to log in to see it. All right, let's go over to some of these other features. So we're on the dashboard right here, and then we've got ACD Queues Pro. Now there's ACD Queues and then there's ACD Queues Pro. There's two different products. ACD Queues, I believe, range from $15 to $30 per month per queue. It's going to depend slightly on your plan. I don't remember the pricing for ACD Queues Pro. I know at one point I did see that they were listed at $99, but that may have changed. If you're interested in either product, you're going to want to talk to our services team or our sales team, and they can get you set up. The main thing is queues offer more routing options than ring groups, and especially Queues Pro, you've got a much more customized hold process. All right, so here you can say, as an agent, I'm marked away. I can change myself to ready so I can take calls, and I can also end the session at the end of my day. This little phone icon here will allow me to select my devices that I would want to use. Now, typically for Queues and Queues Pro, you can only use VoIP devices, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Whereas ring groups, people can take calls from a cell phone or a landline. All right, and then let us I'm just going to click to the edit queue settings here. All right. Basic info, give it a name, and give it, queues can have either an extension number or a phone number. If you want one to have both, that would require custom work. At least I believe it would require custom work. You probably would have to talk to our sales team to see about that, as well as any pricing that might incur. Call limit, basically your limited number of calls that are in the queue, right? If you hit 0, there's no limit. Queue timeout, basically how long people can wait on hold. And then this is for your agents. Timeout is, or if you have no agents logged in and you have this enabled, so timeout immediately if empty means if a call comes in, there's no agents logged in, you time them out immediately. And we'll get to what that means in just a second. Down here, this is for call queues Pro. This doesn't exist on call queues. But zero out call flow. Basically, if someone who's waiting on hold presses 0, what do you want them to do? In this case, they're sending it to a specific device, but typically people send it to a voicemail box. And then you also have the option, this is, again, another pros feature, display agents to other agents. Basically, you're letting agents see the status of each other. And this is record all calls in the queue, which I believe is also a pro feature. I think on standard queues, support can enable it for you versus you doing it yourself. Now, escalation handling, so like the timeout, or they just ran out of time here, you can send them to a queue, right? If you have an additional queue to send it to, or you can say send it to a device, or let's go down here. Again, the most common thing, or at least what people usually expect, is to send a call to voicemail. So then you've got your routing strategies. This is the major difference, really, between queues and groups. So most idle means who's been waiting the longest for a call. Least calls handled, meaning who's had the least amount of connected calls gets the next call. All right, least offers means who's been offered the least amount of calls gets the next call in. You've got round robin, which is just equalized over time. The skills-based are...
It's 11:02 a.m. By the way, you can also ask me questions like, what time is it in Shanghai?
Sorry. I'm not sure why Alexa started talking to me there. But the skills-based options here, as far as I know, are not currently enabled. I think they're still in testing. But these top 4 options are available both in Queues and Queues Pro. Hold treatment, now this is for Queues Pro. So in standard queues, you can basically upload a media file, and that's it, right? So .wav, .mp3, under 1 megabyte. But on Queues Pro, not only can you upload a media file, you can do things like announce position, announce the wait, you can play a different media file, etc. Agent behavior. Agent connect timeout, basically how much time does the system try to reach the agent. And then you also have force away on a reject or miss it. Basically means if an agent misses a call or doesn't accept a call, it puts them on away mode. Now, they can then override that when they get back to their desk or when they're actually ready to take a call again. Recovery time, you can enable that, and you can put it in seconds. And then you can also allow recovery time extensions. The recovery time extensions is actually a pros feature. It does not, which I don't remember it existing on standard. Member assignment, basically saying, hey, who's in the queue? You can click on people and then choose to have them added over. And then you have the option here to review, confirm. You can also print this out. Now, that's actually something for Queues Pro. It's not on standard queues. But basically, that means if you're thinking, hey, I want to test these out, I want to see what's going on first, you can then print out your settings and then come back, make changes, and then compare, so that way you know what's going on. All right, let's go to the members. So you've got your members here. You can manage. And so now you can add additional people into your pool of people who will be in a queue, right? You just select who you want. You would click Add Members. Likewise, you can remove members. And once they're in that members, then you can add them to the queues. Now, another Queues Pro feature is the performance section here. Basically, you can choose agents. You can add another row. And then compare agents. And you can also download and print that. All right, next up is Blacklist. And you would click Edit. Basically, this is allowing you to add phone numbers to block from accessing your system, i.e. they can't call you. Right? So you give it a name. If you turn on Block Anonymous, that means if we don't get valid caller ID, it will block the call. And then in here you put +1 area code and phone number for each phone number you want to block. So then you would click Save, go back to Settings, and then you make sure you click and drag the list you want to use into the selected section, and then you would click Update. And so now when these phone numbers try to call your system, they just get a busy tone. Right. Any admin can get to any fax box on the account. Right, so they can see what's coming back in. They can see what's going out. They can also get the fax log to see, hey, why did this one go out? Little icon here to give an access. Usually it's like too long a file size, or it was a protected file, etc. The monitor basically lets you see what your staff is doing, right? So green means they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Yellow means they're on an outbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away. And then gold means they're on wrap-up time, meaning they're just completed a queue call. And you also can see who's available and who's busy. The recording manager takes you to your recording storage. Reports is currently in beta from what I understand, and it's not actually active on this account. User portal is something everyone on your account can get to. It's just their own specific user portal. Right, so voicemails, this one would, if you have delete after notification for the voicemail box, then they're not going to have anything here. Otherwise, you would have their voicemail showing up, so then they can play it back, they can delete them, etc. Call history shows their call history for the week, and you can change the parameters. Faxes, you can see any of their faxes. The contact list is just within the account. You're not going to be able to add your own contacts into this list. It's basically so you can find your other users and your ring groups, etc. Conference is where you manage your conferencing. You can invite other users on the account to your conference. You can lock the conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can hang up. When you're actually in a conference, like on a participant, you can mute a specific person. You can kick a specific person as well. And then you've got your moderator and participant pins as well. The settings and devices, this is where your users can set up their own call forwarding. If they're using VoIP phones, they can also set up call forwarding from the phone itself using the feature codes, as well as see the status of their devices. Voicemails, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can see again, here's a message. You can play it back, you can download it, etc. If you click on the icon here, save it. You can mark it as new, unlistened, mark it as deleted, or just straight up delete it. If you mark it deleted, it waits for, I think, like 3 days, and then it will delete it automatically. And then webhooks is if you're making use of APIs to link Dash to other software. That does need to be enabled on the account. We typically want to talk to our sales team if you're interested in that. Just because our support team doesn't have a lot of support for it. So, and that is everything. I'll keep this open for another minute or so in case people have any questions. But beyond that, I thank you for your time today. Sorry about the little hiccup there in the middle, and with Alexa deciding to join in. Guess she was bored. But I do thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, not seeing anyone typing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. Thank you again.